Will it change when it comes to Zebec? Did you know that recently Zebec made a post saying how payroll hasn't changed in decades? And below that, they reference a certain audio clip, basically, of Simon, the CEO of Zebec, talking about how payrolls, as of right now, he kind of views it as somewhere along the lines of kind of antiquated, in a sense, if I would like to even describe it as that. And they're trying to change all that through something called instant payrolls. And I'll talk about why this could matter maybe for the future of Zebec in today's video, even though nothing I say is financial advice and even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything. So did you know that when it comes to payrolls, even though oftentimes it's overlooked, we have to consider when Zebec's really focus on a market like this, it's not actually such a bad market in my opinion. For instance, according to the business research company, it says how the global payroll services market was valued at around 73 billion in 2025. The thing is this, that's a very massive market, but at the same time, that's like more traditional payrolls, right? That's not for instant payrolls, in my opinion. At least it's not centered around that. But Zebec's looking to change all that through something called instant payrolls, which is just a little bit different. Let me give an example as to what I mean by this, right? If let's say we take a look at usually people, they're getting paid, every 2 weeks, maybe once a month, but through instant payrolls, it doesn't need that delay, right? It's literally instant. And of course, we do know that Zebec, when it comes to its partnership with Ripple, it did have this heavy emphasis towards payroll. So I think it's beginning to kind of make a lot more sense, in my opinion, as of right now, when it comes to the Zebec and Ripple partnership and kind of the goal of Zebec overall. Because Zebec, it's primarily speaking focused on payrolls, right? I mean, sure, it's focused on the global trade and finance space, but payrolls, it's one of its main focuses. And also, we have to take a look at another statistic. According to Ramco, the global payroll solutions market was valued at around 32.5 billion in 2025, so that's pretty massive, and it's expected to grow to 51 billion approximately by 2030. So yeah, that's pretty impressive as well. So again, when we take a look at Zebec, it's actually focused on a pretty, I think, unique market, right? Not a lot of projects out there focus on that, but Zebec is. And keep in mind, what happens if that narrative really becomes something special? Like in a sense where usually during an altcoin season, usually when the market sentiment does a lot better, we oftentimes see narratives form, like new narratives, right? And it sometimes feels like it happens just out of nowhere like that. And the thing is, if we take a look at something like Zebec, for instance, it's just waiting right there. It's already focused on that market as of right now. So what happens if that narrative were to come and yet Zebec is waiting right there? It might receive, hypothetically, that attention before maybe some other projects because it was just waiting. It was just focused on payrolls the entire time. If eventually that becomes a big narrative when it comes to instant payrolls, it's just kind of waiting right there. It's like, for instance, remember when memes became really popular back in 2021? Who was waiting right there? Basically Shiba Inu and Dogecoin. But I kind of feel like Zebec being focused on instant payrolls is kind of like the Shiba Inu and Dogecoin, but back then. It kind of gives me that vibe where Shiba Inu and Dogecoin, they were memes, right? And it was before memes really became a really popular thing. And Zebec being focused on payrolls as of right now, instant payrolls, I should say, it's kind of focused on it before it really has become a mainstream narrative, because a lot of people out there, if you ask them, maybe name 10 projects within this space that are focused on instant payrolls, I don't know too many that would say like even 5 or let alone 10. But even besides that point, why could instant payrolls even be beneficial? Let's just take a look at, for instance, sure, people like to argue that, you know what, if someone's getting paid once every 2 weeks or once a month, they say that if it's instant like that, they would argue that maybe some individuals out there who may not be too disciplined, right? Who may not be too kind of, I guess, wise or prudent when it comes to their income. Maybe they might just instantly spend it and then not use it for the car payment or the rent. They might not save up for that. That's a totally valid argument. However, at least that option exists. Furthermore, I'm just going to give a real life example when it comes to this, and I'll explain why actually instant payrolls could actually be pretty beneficial in that case. Like for instance, my friend is really obsessed with cameras, right? He loves videography, photography, and all that. And one day he was hired like for a part-time job, basically. It was just kind of him recording this real estate agent for a house tour because the real estate agent wanted to sell the home. But you know what was really like bizarre when it comes to that. So basically, after he gave his invoice, right, he was gonna get his payment like in a maximum 30 days from then. So it wasn't instant. Like he had to wait, a couple of weeks before he actually got paid, even though he just did something like that's so light, like in terms of the workload, right? Just record someone for a couple hours and that's it. But he had to wait like weeks for that. Imagine what instant payrolls would have done. While he was doing that, he could have, got his, I guess, pay while he was doing it, and he wouldn't have to wait a couple weeks. That's different, right? Maybe some people out there who are getting it, once every 2 weeks or once a month like that, maybe they don't want instant payrolls because it kind of can, I guess, accentuate their discipline issues in some cases. Totally understandable, right? Like some people don't want things to just be instant like that. But in the case of like my friend, if he's just doing a part-time job like that or a part-time gig, just doing some freelance work, instant payrolls do matter. So I think that's where Zebec could kind of change the game a little bit. Keep in mind, Zebec already has over 100 payroll enterprise clients anyways, as of right now. So it's not like it's lacking when it comes to that. It's already doing pretty okay. But again, some enterprises may want it, some enterprises do not. But I think that especially when it comes to part-time jobs or part-time gigs or just freelance work, instant payrolls could matter a lot, in my opinion. Because sure, if someone's working 5 days a week and, they're getting paid once every 30 days or whatever, totally fine, right? They want it at the end of the month so they can allocate it properly, put some aside for rent or maybe their mortgage or their car payment, whatever. As opposed to getting it instantly, maybe they're not too disciplined in some cases. But for like freelance work, like come on, right? Like instant payrolls I think could actually help a lot when it comes to that because sure, I guess my friend, he agreed to that, right? I mean, he can't really blame anyone. Like he agreed to, okay, record someone for a couple hours, a house tour, and then, get paid within 30 days. He agreed to that. So, he can't really blame anyone, I suppose. But it's just a pretty bizarre situation, in which case I think instant payrolls could have solved a lot of that waiting. That's the thing. Zebec already has a partnership with Stellar, Algorand, as well as Ripple. That's, I think, a pretty awesome combination that I do see. Now it's all about the execution. Now it's all about how they can actually execute upon their plans and upon their mission because they already have the foundation. Now it's just all about the execution of it. Can they actually bring it over the finish line? That's the thing. But we'll have to wait and see though. But it's a narrative that could maybe take a couple years or even many years to kind of see the full result. However, that in and of itself, I think sometimes concerns some people, right? Because they're like, okay, what happens if there's an altcoin season and Zebec hasn't fully accomplished all the things that it wants us to do anyways? I'm not too worried with that because usually within this space, what really matters? Typically, it's the story, the narrative, and kind of the intent of the project, and also what market is the project focused on at that time, and is that market, does that happen to be a big narrative? Does that happen to have a lot of attention at the time? Usually that kind of matters a lot more than the results of what the project has done. So usually people like the storyline, kind of the, I guess, anticipation. And when I like Zebec, I like its storyline, especially when it comes to instant payrolls. So if instant payrolls becomes a narrative during an altcoin season, Zebec's just kind of waiting right there, even though it may not have accomplished its full mission yet. Just the story and the intent of the project, sometimes that alone is already kind of enough. In some cases, arguably, hypothetically. It's like sometimes watching a UFC match or a boxing match or something like that. Usually the fun thing is like the build up to it, right? So usually people care about the storyline, and I think sometimes it's kind of no different here. But the difference is that when it comes to the storyline of quote unquote instant payrolls, it hasn't become massive just yet. But what happens if it does? That's what I'm curious about. And Zebec's just kind of waiting right there. So again, I'm a little bit curious. And with the market cap as of right now, that is around 360 million, hasn't moved much since my last video. But you know what? I'm still waiting here, and again, I have more of a long-term mindset anyways, so I'm staying patient regardless, but I'm not telling anyone to do anything. But I just want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a very nice day. It's Willie the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.